Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first show of season 3 of Girl Talk Sunday. I am your host, Sandy Best Life Jones. Y'all hear that applause? It's season 3, y'all. Woo! I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I could not wait for tonight. Yes, season 3 has begun as of right now. Again, I am the host of Girl Talk Sunday, Sandy Best Life Jones, and I am here to help women from all over the world discover the purpose and the plan for their lives through honoring God, honoring their body, and owning their worth. We are a faith based platform, but all who come in peace are welcome. Listen, y'all, I just have to say, I have wanted my own personal glam squad since I was like 6 years old. I am not kidding. I have always wanted someone to do my makeup every day, get my hair right, pick my clothes out. 6 years old. I kid you not. Here I am, 2 months from turning 56, and I finally got it. It only took me 50 years, but better late than never, never. Child, listen. When I tell you my daughter-in-law came over here, do y'all see this beat? Do y'all see this? I may never wash my face again. Look at here, look at here. She showed me the finished product when she was done. I just said, hello. I was so excited. I finally got my glam squad. I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm absolutely delighted for the first show of season 3 of Girl Talk Sunday. I want to thank those of you who rode with us all the way through season 2. We had some amazing guests last season, and we're taking it another round higher this season. My guest tonight, oh, baby, listen. Y'all, we about to get educated tonight. We about to figure this thing out when it comes to our mental health because listen, we know the theme for season 3 on Girl Talk Sunday is authenticity. And I think one of the best ways to really become the fullest, most authentic expression of yourself is to make sure that you take care of your mental health. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. This is a virtual mental health checkup, honey. And we are going to get down to business with my guest, DeHeavalyn Pullium. I call her Dee Dee. So that's why when I say DeHeavalyn, it sounds off to me because I call her Dee Dee. Dee Dee is here. She is in the green room. I'm going to bring her out in just a few minutes. But I want to make sure that I introduce her because I want you to know who she is. And then when she comes out, she's going to tell us what she does and why she does it. So I just want to read this really quickly, and then we're going to bring out our guest. DeHeavalyn is waiting. All right. DeHeavalyn Pullium is a licensed marriage and family therapist, educator, and diversity and inclusion consultant. She is passionate about helping people experience greater alignment between the life they are living and the life they envision for themselves. DeHeavalyn completed her Master of Science in Family Therapy at the University of Massachusetts, Boston in 2016. I remember when she left to go to Boston, and has a private practice based in Seattle, Washington. DeHeavalyn takes a systemic, multicultural, and justice-oriented approach to working with individuals, couples, teens, and families. She specializes in addressing issues of anxiety, trauma, and relationship stressors. Through her work, DeHeavalyn has seen the effectiveness of self-reflection and journaling as a tool to live a value-driven life that honors one's time, relationships, and personal growth. She founded Musingly LLC to combine her love of journaling with her desire to increase access to culturally adaptive mental health services. DeHeavalyn Pullium is here. going to bring her out. Here she comes. We're back. Okay, here we go. Here she comes. I don't know what happened, but we're back.
No worries.
Oh my God. I almost panicked. I was like, where'd she go? There she is. Welcome to the show, Dee Dee.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is such an honor to have you here. I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I remember when you left to go to Boston to complete your master's degree. But we're going to get into all that. But before we get into that, I cannot remember, refresh my memory. I have known you at least since high school, but maybe middle school.
Yes. High school.
High school?
I think I was a freshman in high school when I started going to Maranatha.
Okay, high school. And I'm telling you, I have watched you. You are very introspective. Some people think you're quiet, but I don't know. I don't know if you're quiet. I don't know if you're an introvert either. I think that you have your moments, but I think when you are in your element and you're in an environment that really invigorates you, you are not quiet.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm halfway. Like if I were to take the Myers-Briggs, it would say I am 48% extrovert and 52% introvert.
Okay, so it's almost even. Almost. Okay. I will go with that. We'll go with that. I'm excited to have you here because I think that mental health awareness has been a huge topic in these post-pandemic days. We are, well, the pandemic was in 2020, so we're almost 4 years post-pandemic. And the work that I do for the state, I work with a lot of families that are in crisis. And ever since the pandemic, I've seen a different type of crisis. And so I don't know if you've seen that too in your work that you do, but there's a shift that happened during the pandemic. And I see more people who just don't want to leave their home. They want to be at home. Could be because we were in our houses and couldn't leave our homes for so long, or just could be the residue of the anxiety that came with the pandemic. So we're going to talk about, we're going to get your take on that tonight. Before we do anything else, I'm going to say to you what I say to all of my guests who come on my show. DeHeavalyn Pullium, tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us why you do it.
I'm excited to have this conversation. I love that you break down those questions separately, because I think a lot of times when you think about who am I think the first thing that comes to mind can be like, oh, this is where I work. But I love that you separate who are you from what you do. And I think when I think of the who are you question, I think a lot about who am I in relation to others. So like I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm an auntie. I'm a Black woman who wears her natural hair. Like I enjoy kickboxing and Marvel movies, and I think of myself as a multifaceted human who just enjoys laughing, enjoys rest, and wants to have a sense of purpose and impact in the work that I do professionally, but it's really for the sake of feeling at peace in my personal life. So I think those are some pieces of who I am.
Mhm.
What I do, I am a marriage and family therapist in private practice. I am an educator. I teach some undergraduate psychology classes, and I am a diversity inclusion consultant and trainer. And I think all of those areas also have a lot to do with relationships. I think part of my why is that I really believe that if we can heal ourselves and even heal our relationship with ourselves, and because of my faith, also healing our relationship with God, that kind of ministry of reconciliation, then we have healthier families and communities. And I think a lot of the work that I do in those different spaces tends to tie into just how do we relate to each other better, how do we see each other better, how we hear each other better, and feel a sense of connection.
Right. Do you find that most people kind of skip over the step of healing themselves and they go out and try to heal other people?
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
I think that can happen, but I don't know that those steps have to be separate. Like I think there's some parts of our healing that we do need to do on our own. We need to be able to develop a sense of compassion for ourselves and acceptance and curiosity about our own story, so that then we can share that with others. But I also think there's a certain level of healing or a certain type of healing that we just can't do by ourselves, that we're meant to be in relationship, and some things won't even be revealed about our character until we're sitting across from someone who's holding up that mirror or putting us in situations or conversations where now all of a sudden I have an opportunity to learn this part about myself and my growth. So I think they can happen at the same time, but I don't think that I do think that the self work is an important part of it, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to
Mhm.
tell you that when I posted the flyer for tonight's show, your peers
Mhm.
were very
Mhm.
excited. You grew up with my children.
Yeah.
My children have told me over and over, Mom, I can't sit for an hour and listen.
Yeah. For
I don't
sure.
care if you're my mama. I can't do it.
Uh-huh.
I told them you were coming on the show. They were like, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch. I'm just
Oh,
okay,
I
okay.
love that. I feel
Watch my
honored.
show. That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah. I
But I
feel
want you
honored.
to know, yeah, I want you to know how much of an impact you've had on your peers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that they admire you, they admire the work that you do, and they want to
Mhm.
hear what you have to say. So,
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you don't notice like who's
yeah,
watching, so I appreciate you
no,
sharing that.
but they are watching. They are
Mhm.
definitely watching. Now, what I want to do first, what I want to talk about first, I want to go back to your childhood.
Mhm.
That was like, and I want to know if your childhood growing up from a little kid to a teenager and then to a young adult, um, did that in any way shape the work that you're doing now?
Mhm.
One-
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Short answer is absolutely. I think we're all shaped by our life experiences.
Mhm.
And for me, I grew up with a single mom initially,
Mhm.
who was in the military. So I remember moving a lot. I remember that church was always a really central, kind of grounding piece of our upbringing.
Mhm.
My mom always taught me about, having a relationship with God over religion. And so very much, watching her in spiritual warfare and praying in the living room early in the crack of dawn, and just that being a really foundational part of what I got to witness growing up.
Mhm.
And as I got older, I think that as it relates to like my career choice, I think I got to see more and more just how complex all of my family members are, and how mental health and how um, uh, trauma can really impact relationships and well-being, and so I became really, really curious about just understanding my family.
Mhm.
But as I actually went to study, I became more and more curious about myself and like who am I actually? Like if I
Right.
stop trying to study everybody else around me, like who is this person in the mirror? And then from there, just learning, like I love that your theme is authenticity, like
Yeah.
learning that if I can accept the beautiful parts and the dark parts and the messy parts, all of that of who I am, and just
Mhm.
be curious about it and be open to not necessarily being complacent with it when I say acceptance, but just accepting it in that I'm fully human, which means I have spaces I need to grow in and I have spaces that I can celebrate. But if I embrace that, I can once again embrace that in others, right?
Right.
And so then therapy became less about me having like a savior complex of like I need to save my family, I need to save these people in front of me, and more about I just want to be really curious about somebody's story, right? Like I've taken time to get to know my story, and there's
Mhm.
still even more to unpack for myself, but I get to just be human with another human and just create an atmosphere where if we take out the judgment, if we allow the sense that you can be fully seen and
Yeah.
fully known and accepted within that space, all of a
Mhm.
sudden there's less energy being put into hiding, being put into shame, and more energy being put into let me actually observe this. Let me actually be curious about it. Let me see what I choose is for myself to keep moving forward in it, or would I choose something different, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of where the aligning with values piece kind of comes in of just if it's less about me being who I should be
Mhm.
and not fitting that, can I become more aligned with what are the values I want to honor in my life, and where's the gap between what that and what I'm doing now and what I'm experiencing.
I think I heard you say, um, the more we begin to accept ourselves, every aspect of ourselves, from
Mm-hmm.
the things we like to the things we want to improve on to the things we just downright do not like about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The more that we begin to accept that about ourselves, it may make it a little easier to be more accepting to other people. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of it is so I do use different theories and different models in my work, but one of them does look at how we have just different parts of ourselves, right? That and we know that like sometimes it's like a part of me wants this, a part of me doesn't, right? A part of me is afraid, a part of me is hopeful and curious, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But if I over identify with one part that I think I should feel, right? Or if I over identify with being afraid, right? I'm really afraid of this opportunity. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of moving into an unknown space and doing something different. Then I don't keep being curious about other parts of me, like the part of me that is adventurous, the part of me that's curious, the part of me that's hopeful, then I might miss out on a lot of opportunities. So when I say accept, I mean accept that a part of me is afraid, but also I'm feeling these other emotions too. So if I can see them all as valid, as just information, not one
Mhm.
of them alone dictates what I do next, but it's just information, then I can make an informed decision about how I move forward. Um,
Say more, Dee Dee. Say more about it being just information, because I think a lot of times we get bogged down with the root
mhm,
thoughts in our minds about
mhm,
whatever it is. Those
yeah.
racing thoughts that we have a hard time quieting our thoughts sometimes. I know I do.
Mhm,
Say more about it's just information and how to
yeah.
really embrace that. It's just information.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we keep talking about it in terms of emotions, right? It's really easy to categorize emotions as either being good or
Mhm.
being bad. Um, like anger gets a bad rap for being like a bad emotion, right? Especially like in some faith communities, it's like you shouldn't feel angry. You should always feel hopeful or joyful or thankful, right? But if we see anger as just information, usually it's information that a value has been violated or not honored, a
Mhm.
boundary has been crossed, something feels unjust, right?
Mhm.
So if I get curious about what feels unjust, what boundary wasn't honored, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden I can respond to that. Like maybe there needs to be a follow-up conversation.
Hmm.
Maybe I need to, there needs to be some sort of advocacy or some sort of change that needs to be talked about, right? It's just informing what matters to me and what I need to do next, right?
Right.
So it's not bad, but it's information that I can use to figure out what would be the most aligned thing I can do that honors my values, honors my integrity, and is responsive to my needs as opposed to just pushing it down like I shouldn't feel that.
Mhm. So, how much of your time with your clientele includes Gen Z
Mm,
and the millennial generation?
yeah. So I see, um, I would say majority of my clients are millennial.
Mhm.
Um, and and I do see some adolescents and some younger kiddos, but usually alongside their families.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so a good portion are mostly millennial, I'd say.
Mhm.
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, because your practice is for married folks, single folks, families,
Mhm.
you run the gamut. You see them all.
Yes. Yes.
So, with respect to millennials, is there like a common theme that you're seeing when it comes to mental health of that generation? And I'm asking that question because I was reading an article
Hmm.
the other way, and I want to read this to you, and then I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
And it was speaking about the millennial generation and some of the mental health challenges that they are facing, and what some of the reasons might be why their challenges are a little bit different than, say, my generation. And so,
Hmm.
what the article says, it says millennials face higher rates of mental health issues compared to previous generations. Factors such as student loan debt, economic uncertainty, and societal pressures contribute to anxiety, depression, and burnout, making it challenging to maintain healthy relationships and overall well being. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think that resonates a lot with what I've seen.
Mhm.
Um, I will say I see a lot of majority of my caseload are Black women within that generation, and
Mhm.
so I do see the anxiety that comes um, from this idea of what where we should be at a certain point in our lives, an idea of
Mhm.
how much we
Mhm.
should make
Mhm.
and how we should act. But I also see this kind of defiance towards it as well. Because because a lot of them are also in a lot of professionals in predominantly white spaces who are asking questions like, is this, you kind of mentioned the pandemic, how it
Mhm.
shifted things. I think it shifted a lot of ideas around work of I should be able to bring my authentic self to
Mhm.
this space.
Right.
And so when we're talking about authenticity, we're also challenging all the shoulds, including the shoulds of how much I should make and where I should be in life. Should I, already be married? Should I already have kids? Should I already have
Mm.
a certain title,
Mhm.
but also, do I need to talk a certain way in order to be seen as professional? Do I need to wear my hair a certain way?
Mm.
And so,
Mhm.
because all of that is in question when it comes to, is this actually authentically me? Am I wanting things that I want, or am I wanting things I've been told to want? It just becomes a bigger identity conversation. So yes, I see it, but I also see it in the context of not just about professionally, but just a larger sense of identity of just where does my culture fit into this? Where does my gender fit into this? Where do all the identities I embody, how do they show up in the spaces that I'm in? And is there actually space for it?
Right. I like how you talked about the shoulds, because it's
Mhm.
easy to get shackled to the shoulds.
Yeah.
Should we break up with the shoulds, or do we need the shoulds? Which one is it?
I think that's a really good question because
My
because
shoulds drive me crazy. I'm telling you. Enough. I should
yes.
be my true authentic self. That's the only
Yeah.
should I need right now. So what
Yeah.
do you say? What do you say?
Yeah. This is purely opinion. This is not like the professional setting. So run
Right.
with it.
Mhm.
I think I've been like lately wrestling with that a little bit because my approach, like I'm primarily a narrative therapist. So I think about the stories that we tell about ourselves, right?
Mm.
Um, like the stories that our family says about who we are, the stories that society says that we should be. And I just like to
Mhm.
deconstruct those messages of like, what have I internalized? And is it
Mhm.
lining up with my authentic self? Is it honoring my values? Just is there alignment, right?
Right.
So part of that is deconstructing the shoulds, taking
Mhm.
like breaking them apart. Where do they come from? And
Mhm.
then asking questions about, if I were to choose this for myself, right?
Mhm.
If I were to use my agency, what would I prune and what would I keep, right?
Okay.
So in that sense, the shoulds, I'm like trying to get rid of them and say, like, if it wasn't about what you should do, like, who are you and what lines up with that?
Mhm.
But I think a part of me also recognizes that the shoulds do come um, from people coming together and kind of creating some kind of consensus on what is ideal for our community to help us to connect and do life together well, right? There's some certain social agreements that we have about greeting each other or about what's rude or what's respectful when you come into somebody's house, right? Technically, those are shoulds as well.
Mhm.
So, at what point is it about the should of like me as an individual in a very individualistic society that really prioritizes, my comfort and my desires and my preferences? Are we losing a sense of we, of like what is our collective responsibility towards each other? And so
Mhm.
are some shoulds needed in order for us to do life and relationships well together? I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's a it's a question that's been floating around in my mind.
I like the collective concern because we are. Our society is more I based.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think about the collective struggle and the collective um, anxiety and the collective stress. We
Mm-hmm.
think about our own individual lives and what we're going through, but what affects us affects the all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we become more conscious of the collective
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just always thinking about me, me, me? How do we do that? How do we move towards that?
Yeah, yeah. I once again, this is us kind of
It's
constructing this together. But I think part of it comes from not being in isolation,
okay.
right? Of allowing ourselves to be in relationship so that we can witness not only how are we impacted by others, but
Mhm.
recognize that we have an impact as
Right,
well, right?
right.
Like I think sometimes we can get in this mentality that we're in a silo, and
Mhm.
that if I live by my preferences and do my thing, it's not bothering anybody else. It doesn't have an impact on anybody else. But that's not actually true.
Mhm.
We are each impactful individuals who are constantly. We're always in relationship. Like we can't
Right,
escape that.
right. Yes, yes. I 100% agree with that. It's taken me a while to get there, but I 100% agree with that. We are a collective of people, individuals. We're all individuals, but we
Mm-hmm.
make up a collective. And
Yeah.
so really have to start thinking about how we show up in the world and how that affects the collective and not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like that. I want to read your mission statement for your practice because I like the way you the approach that you use for your
Mm-hmm.
therapy. It says at Counseling in Context, my mission is to provide counseling services that are informed by the racial, cultural, gendered, and spiritual contexts of each client's life, to deconstruct and challenge the impacts of racism, sexism, imposter syndrome, we're going to talk about that, and stereotype threat in the lives of marginalized communities. Break that down for me. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So the way that I talked about our stories and where they come from.
Mhm.
Like we're internalizing all these messages.
Mhm.
And I think, sometimes if those messages are without context, it
Mhm.
can feel like I am who I am. It is what it is. There's not room for change necessarily because it just feels like this is the norm. This is life, right?
Mhm.
Versus if we take time to be curious about where this came from,
Right.
right? That some interactions um, do have racial undertones. Some interactions do have, sexism or other things underlying them. And so can I support my clients to, first of all, not feel crazy and not feel alone, right? Like when they experience the Black woman stereotype being placed on them in workspaces when they're getting feedback from their managers and bosses and all these things, like how do we put that in context about where that trope came from, and how there is a double standard between the way that they're being spoken to and the way they're being described versus their peers, right? So part of it is just being able to call out that I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like that some of the anxiety that you're experiencing, some of the discouragement that you're experiencing is not just about you. It's not just like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed or you
Right.
chose this. Some of it is environmental. Some of
Mhm.
it is baked into our culture. Some of it's baked into the norms that we kind of breathe in and live into. But if we took a look at them, we'd say, this isn't right.
Mhm.
So I think part of it is just that calling out and deconstructing just where did it come from?
Mhm.
And if it came from a place that does not align with who I am, it's
Mhm.
putting me in a box. It doesn't align, once again, with my values. I feel like I'm a broken record with saying that, but I think that alignment matters. And so if I can get curious about it, if I could put it in context, then I can kind of free myself from the burden of trying to fit into it or not fit into it, right? I'm not going to try to make my tone even nicer than it already is just
Mhm.
because
Mm,
you're
yeah.
seeing me as angry when I'm just being direct, right? I do
Yeah.
need to learn how to, culturally adapt and translate sometimes, but I don't need to strip away who I am, because what you're bringing towards me is coming from a much deeper and longer historical reality that I don't have to choose to participate in.
Right. It's that code switching that will worry your
Mhm. Yeah.
will. And I'm from the school of thought that it's not my responsibility to educate the people in my workplace or
Mhm.
wherever I am about who I am as a Black woman.
Mhm.
I think that you need to go do some research
Yeah.
about Black people as a whole. And Black people, Black communities are not the only marginalized communities, but I'm just happening to talk about the Black community.
Mhm.
I just don't feel like I don't want to have to keep explaining this.
Mhm.
And our community has been gaslit to death to make us think that microaggressions and all of those things that happen in the workplace are not real. But it's
Mhm.
very real. And it
Yeah.
happens every day. And people are in jobs that they would otherwise love if
Mhm.
they weren't experiencing the covert racism that they experience. And so
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to find the strength and the courage to call it out. First, call it what it is.
Mhm.
And then when you need to call it out, call it out. I think
Yeah.
finding courage to do that is important. And if you have to go to therapy to find that courage, go ahead and go. That's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's powerful to put it into context because you're not crazy, right? It's a real thing. It's truly happening.
Mhm.
Um, it also helps with like figuring out how to choose your battles. Just like what impact is this happening? Do you have the ability to check in on yourself and know like what is your capacity for today? Maybe
Wow.
today you do feel like educating, and maybe today you just want to sit this one out and rest, or maybe today you need to know who else is in your organization that you can just sit in their office and just decompress with and be
Right.
real with, so that you can go back out and be in that cultural space where they don't always get you, right? Just how do you navigate those things and care for yourself to make that work sustainable? Um, But also, I think the other piece of, wanting to do therapeutic work within my clients' context, as far as like the identities they embody, is about finding that source of strength for them. That that our cultural background, our spiritual background, like all these pieces that we hold, they're not just sources of oppression or places where we're misunderstood. They're also sources of strength and of community, and can be a really huge part of our healing journey if we allow ourselves to integrate our full self into the work, and not separate that out.
I like how you said check in with yourself to see what your capacity is for the day, because it might be real small on some days. It might be a little bit bigger. If you check in with yourself, then you can govern yourself accordingly. And you don't have tension in the workplace. You don't have these awkward conversations. I remember when I was working in the office, I work from home now, but I remember when I was working in the office and there was a higher up that came into the office. He was like a director or something. And I was having a conversation with him about something. He was like, "You're so articulate." I was just like, why would I not be? I'm in a professional setting. I'm professional. Why would I not be articulate? "Oh no, I just meant that you speak really well." Child, that's even worse. I don't get, my counterparts don't get that. I never hear anybody say that to my counterparts. What is that?
It's a microaggression, it's implicit bias, right? And I think so the other side of the work that I like to do is around training about like cultural competence and diversity and equity and inclusion and those things, and trying to help people understand that the way that our mind works, like it likes categories, right? It likes to put things in sections and say that these things go together. They just make sense. It's like when you say peanut butter, in our context, somebody would think of jelly, right? It's just these associations that naturally happen over time. It's just that when they're applied to human beings, to complex beings, they don't tell the whole story. Right. And if we don't examine them, we say things that, if somebody asks us directly, "Do you believe that Black people are not articulate?" as a norm, you'd probably say, no, of course not. Right. But the implicit association that your mind has made is that there's a lack of education in the Black community and that they're not expected to be articulate. And then you get comments like that, right? So I think, it's hard because people don't want to be seen a certain way. And I get that, because for some of them, their heart is a place of like, I do, believe in these good things about all people. But it's just, it's the water that we drink in, it's the smoke that we're all breathing in, this bias that, we, even folks in our community or in other communities that experience microaggressions, we have an internalized version of that ourselves that we have to deconstruct at some point.
Yeah. You brought up education. When did you know what you wanted to go to school for? What you wanted to go to college for? How old were you? When did you know?
Yeah. I have my own relationship with anxiety, and I feel like I changed my mind so many times. I knew I wanted to go to college. Like, I think that was just kind of instilled in me from, my mom is really big on education, and that was instilled for me from a young age. But when I got to college, I wanted to be a doctor. But I think it just sounded good because I don't actually like hospitals. I don't want to work all those hours. Like, it just wasn't adding up. And so I took time to explore once I was in college. I took a psych class my freshman year, and I knew I loved psychology. And so that was consistent until I graduated. But I went back and forth between double majors and minors and all sorts of things while I was in undergrad. And then by the time I graduated, I knew psychology was it, but I didn't know what part of it. So even then, I took 3 years before I went to do my graduate program because I didn't know if I wanted to get a doctorate. I didn't know if I wanted to do a PhD or a PsyD or marriage and family therapy or social work. So it took a lot of really intentional conversations with mentors, trying to kind of do as much of a job shadow as I could within our field, being able to, just kind of try out different things. Like I was working in admissions initially while I was waiting to figure out what I wanted to do for grad school, and just learning that I love being in higher ed. I love being in academia. I love being around the conversations that happen in that space. So, so I think it's been a journey. I can't tell you what age exactly when I knew for sure. I just know that along the way, I kept myself open to kind of stepping into what I felt God was calling me to at the moment, and asking a lot of questions, feeling a lot of anxiety, and eventually the next step just kind of revealed itself through those relationships and being open to just trying new work opportunities along the way. I felt confirmation when I was in grad school. I think once I started seeing clients, it just felt like, wow, like I just get to be myself in my work every day. And that just has felt really special.
So are you telling me that you were just the typical freshman in high school that had no clue what they wanted to do or what they wanted to major in college? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a freshman in high school who's watching right now, and they haven't quite narrowed it down? Get the process going, like the financial aid and all of those aspects of it. How do you get that going for someone who's never had that before?
Yeah. I would say befriend your admissions counselors. Like the schools that you're interested in, make your admissions counselor your friend, and just ask them all the questions and help them guide you through the process and make sure they know your story.
Yeah.
I would say if you're unsure of what you want to major in, just choose a place that has a lot of different majors that you can kind of see yourself trying out, and knowing that the trying out process is okay. Especially your first year, like you'll just take what you can and try to take some fun classes and just see what sparks your interest. And even your sophomore year, there's still some exploration there. Usually there are internship programs or mentorship programs or job shadowing. Like the colleges want you to have the opportunity to get placed somewhere that makes them look good, right? So there's going to be resources on campus to help you explore your options. And know that, I don't know if the stat is as true today as it was when I was in undergrad, but what gave me a lot of comfort was knowing that on average, most students change their major 10 times before they graduate. And that's normal. It's okay. Like you will figure it out.
No.
After you get the diploma, a lot of it will be on the job training anyway, or you'll later learn to specialize in something if you decide to go to a graduate program. But you don't have to have all the answers going into college. And I think it's also, I think there's a larger conversation about the value of higher education as well. But I think from my experience of higher ed, there's so much value in just being in the midst of peers who are becoming something just like you're on your way to becoming. So being able to network and being able to just build relationships that carry you through your career is also huge. Like a lot of my opportunities came from old professors calling me up saying, I remember you, I was thinking of you, and I think you'd be a great fit for this. So I think those relationships are a huge part of the experience as well.
Okay. I want to use these last few minutes to talk about imposter syndrome. Hear a lot about that nowadays, and I want to hear your definition of it and how to overcome it.
Yeah. So, imposter syndrome is this sense of feeling like a fraud, that you have reached a level of success, but this feeling, this deep sense that if anybody truly knew who you were, truly knew whatever shortcomings that you're hiding so well, that they would know that you are an imposter. You're not supposed to be in the position. You're not supposed to have the title. You're not supposed to get the recognition. Like that wasn't for you, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think what I found is that a lot of folks tend to also struggle with perfectionism alongside of that. The
Mhm.
sense that if I'm not 100% all the time, then I'm not going to, uh, then I can't be as good as everybody thinks that I am.
Mhm.
Or it's a mindset of, you know, focusing on a larger goal that is very, very long term, very big. And until you reach that final outcome, nothing else counts. So then there's not this practice of gratitude or this practice of celebrating the small wins along the journey. And so you're not seeing growth, you're just seeing, I'm still not there. And
Right.
so it's the sense that I keep feeling like a failure because I just haven't made it to that final point yet.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of the work around imposter syndrome is being able to be honest about both your strengths and your challenges, your areas of growth, right? But to be able to recognize that the growing edges are normal and good. You're not supposed to be perfect because you are supposed to be as human as everybody else.
Right.
And during that journey, you are making incremental change. You are getting recognition from peers who see something in you. You have reached this kind of midpoint goal, and that's a big deal. What are you doing to acknowledge that, right? And then being able to just kind of narrow down milestones instead of just looking at the end result. But I would also say, like, I also do like some somatic work. So it's not just talking, but also like what's happening in your body.
Right.
Um, and just doing a little education on that. You know, our brains are built for survival, right? They want us to be safe. Our brain wants us to be safe. So I hope I don't bore y'all, but there's this thing called neuroception. We're constantly scanning our environment, looking around to see, am I safe, right? And
Mhm.
these days, it's not lions and tigers and bears. It is like, am I safe with, you know, this email or this meeting with the supervisor or this relationship issue? Like
Right.
those feel like threats to us, right? And so because of that, our brain captures the negative much easier. Because
Mhm.
knowing what could go wrong helps keep us safer than knowing what's going right, right?
Right.
So our brain's capturing it. It's like, bam, I can process that real quick, real easy. But things that go well, it's like there and it's gone. It's like we forget it so easily, or we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to learn how to savor those moments.
Mhm.
Literally, like one small exercise is to think of the good thing that happened. Think about how you're feeling. Think about your five senses in that moment. Get a full picture of it, and then just sit with it for a good 10 to 15 seconds and just savor how good that moment felt so that it registers in our brain in the same way that a negative event would just quickly automatically do. Okay.
And while you're savoring,
Yeah.
you can write down your thoughts in a musling.
Yes.
A line of journals. Tell me about it. Talk to me about your journal.
Yeah. So yeah, so the journals, part of it is this creative outlet. I personally love journaling as a practice for myself. And um, I have this process of resetting myself to get through organizing my day. And so I have a couple planners. I have some journals on, you know, just making going through a discernment process on choosing relationships that are healthy and beneficial and that are aligned with our kind of our green flags, like what are things we want to honor in relationships, as well as discerning what feels like a red flag or um, even beyond that, like what's a yellow flag, what's something that's just annoying and irritating, but you know I can work through, or what's an orange flag, something that is a challenge that we can address and needs to be addressed, but not quite a red flag where I just need to run, right? So writing through that kind of process is helpful for me. So I wanted to offer that to others. And but the kind of long-term, bigger hope for it is that it also acts as a way to increase access to mental health services and education. Like long term, I'm hoping that I can get to a point to provide scholarships for folks to actually go off to become therapists. And I also want to be able to fund some voucher programs for folks to just get, some free sessions. So that's musingly, that's kind of my creative outlet, but also trying to fill a need that I'm passionate about. But thank you for supporting it. I see your today journal.
The website is going across the screen right now. I have the Today Musingly Journal, and I want to tell you what it is. This daily planner is a 90-day, undated, no pressure, two-page spread that is dedicated to today. You can come and go from this tool as you please without falling behind or ruining a perfect streak. This daily planner will help you to direct your focus toward your top 3 productivity and personal goals. Additionally, this planner allows for flexibility in your day by providing space to outline your plan schedule and then adjust it as needed. The intention for this practice is to increase productivity, flexibility, and self-compassion. And I have my right here full of my musings because I'm a journaler. I've been journaling since I was about 12 years old. And so I saw that you created your own line of journals. I was like, oh, yeah, child, I need a journal from Miss DeHeavalyn because I just love journals and I love her. So you put the two together and you order your journal. So if you would like to order one of your own journals, the website is scrolling across the screen. It is shopmusingly.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, Dee Dee.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
I admire you. I admire the work that you do. I am proud of you. I wish you nothing but God's richest blessings on your private practice. If you are looking for a counselor, go to counselingcontext.com. Go ahead and schedule your phone intake. Dee Dee offers virtual appointments and in-person appointments if you live within the area. Some of us, in our community, counseling is a little taboo. I think it's better than it used to be. I think it's better than it used to be. And that has a lot to do with millennials, I think. But it's okay to go and find a safe space to think out loud. What therapy is. It's a safe space for you to think out loud. And then there are some other elements added to it as well. But it's just a way to get your thoughts out of your head, because like DeHeavalyn said, it's just all those emotions that we feel that make us feel anxious, make us feel scared, make us feel depressed, whatever the emotion might be. It's really just information. And if you look at it that way and deconstruct the information to help you with the emotion, then that's what you do. Is that right, DeHeavalyn?
You said it beautifully. Yeah.
All right. Thank you again. It has been such a pleasure to have you. I want to see if we have any comments in the chat. Chanel says she is definitely getting a journal. Yes. Grab your journal. There's several different ones. We talk about the other ones besides the one that I have, the today one.
Yeah. So I have a reset journal. Let me see if I can just grab a couple. So the reset journal is a vision journal for time management. So it looks at time as a way to align your life with what you're valuing, right? If you look at somebody's budget, you can tell what they value by what they spend on. They might value food, that's me. They might value entertainment. They might value travel. You can tell by how they spend their money, the same idea for how you spend your time. So in here are some, oh, this one's you. This one has some of my stuff in it, but it has some vision boards for what is your vision for your, for investing in your purpose, for investing in your loved ones, for investing in rest. And from there, it kind of helps you build out an ideal schedule that helps you to say no to good things for the sake of focusing your time on the things that really matter, that you really want to prioritize. So this one kind of is a step-by-step process on how to align your time with things that you really want to invest in. And then the Stay Discernment Journal is the one that I was mentioning earlier about how do you think about first, what is my standard in the first place on what I'm looking for in a relationship? And, you know, because we talk a lot about the red flags and like when to run, but do I even know what the green flags are? Do I know when I want to actually stay and something is good? So it first helps you to identify. Yeah. So it helps you to identify that first.
We didn't even really get to talk about that. I'm going to bring you back.
We can talk more. We can talk more.
We talk about relationships. Red flags, green flags, yellow flags, all the flags.
Yes, all the flags, all the flags. So that one walks you through that process. Yeah. And then I have some blank ones that are just kind of the little muse journals up here. Those just kind of are open space for whatever you need it to be. But the three main ones are the Today, Stay, and Reset. Oh, and actually there's one more called Noted, and that one's a therapy journal. So that one helps you to track your victories so you can celebrate those small wins, track your appointments, and then taking notes during your session so you can parse out what are the insights I want to remember, what's my homework, what are things I want to reflect on later. So those are all available.
Nice. Yeah. Again, if you've been looking, or actually if you've been thinking about going to therapy and perhaps you prayed and asked God for a sign, here's your sign. counselingcontext.com. It won't hurt to just go to the website and schedule an intake. It's very simple. Won't hurt at all. And then just see what happens. Dee Dee is available. She's ready for you. Thank you again, my dear.
Yes,
I was talking to her mom earlier on Facebook because she shared the flyer for the show. She's like, "That's my daughter." In the chat, I don't see her, but she's like over the moon proud of you. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yes. I love my mama. Yes. We talked earlier today.
Well, your work is honorable. It's important. It is needed. And I applaud you for following not just your dream, but understanding the mission, understanding the assignment, and pushing past whatever challenges you or whatever was in your mind telling you might not be good enough or you might not be able to do it. Pushing past that.
Yeah.
Embrace the work that you do because it is so needed and it's so important, especially in our community. We need it. So I'm praying that this show will bring you a flood of clients. So much so that you'll have to create a wait list. I believe in God for that. I absolutely am. I am.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll have to come visit soon. I will need to get my way down to Tacoma.
Yes, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You know we love us some Dee Dee.
Yeah, I love y'all too. I do.
All right, my dear, you take good care, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Yes, Asia, I agree. Dee Dee she's an exceptional person. She's exceptional. I've known her since high school. She's in her 30s now, and she's doing the work that her soul must have. And I just applaud that in every way, on every level. I think that once you find your purpose and your passion, you got to pursue that thing because the world needs what you have to offer. whatever it is. We can't all be therapists. We can't all be counselors. We can't all do the work that I do with the state. Whatever your passion is, whatever your purpose is, grab hold of that and think collectively, not just individually. Think collectively. The collective as a whole needs what I have to offer. And then go about the business of offering that. Create a platform. Go back to school. Further your education. Whatever the case may be. You have a mission. As my good friend Angel Deal likes to say, you are the answer to a prayer somewhere in the earth. You are an answer to a prayer. So when you think about your life that way, you really don't have time to just be out here doing whatever. And I'm not saying don't go and have fun and hang out with your friends and do the things you love to do, but put everything in its context. There's a time to play, and then there's a time to get serious about the mission that you have in the earth that God gave you. He didn't give it to anybody else. He gave it to you. Now, what are you going to do with your mission, your God-given assignment? How are you using your life to make life better for the collective? That's the thought I want to leave you with tonight on this first show of season 3 of Girl Talk Sunday. I'm so glad you were able to stop in to be with me tonight. We will be back on the 25th of this month. It's a Monday night. So it'll be Girl Talk Sunday on a Monday. My guest is author extraordinaire. Oh, I don't even want to tell you who it is. You're just going to have to wait. You'll wait. I'm going to post it. I ain't going to tell you yet. I love her, though. You're going to love her, too. She has a brand new book out and is doing very, very well. I'll just go ahead and tell you. My guest for the next show on the 25th of this month, which is a Monday night, is Miss Benita Lee. And she's coming on to talk about her new book. So I'm excited about that. I can't wait to get copies for my grandbabies because they need to read that book. So I will be saying more about the next show in a few days. So watch my Facebook page, watch my Instagram. I'll be sharing more information about Benita Lee and what she's going to be coming to talk to us about. All right, y'all. That's tonight's show. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm so happy that you could stop by just for a little bit, just to hear us talk about, just a little girl talk. I hope you were able to leave with something that you can use. I hope your heart is encouraged. I hope that you have a better understanding of what it is that you need to do to get the help that you need so that your mental health can become more of a priority for you. I really do. Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I love you all. And I'll see you on the 25th, which is a Monday night, but it's Girl Talk Sunday on a Monday. I'll see you then. Good night.